Louisville at Miami. They're going to Hard Rock, but it ain't the gamble. It ain't the gamble. Louisville is a 1-point favorite on the road at Miami. Over-under is set at 47 points. Louisville is on the verge, the precipice of greatness. They're trying to make the ACC championship game. Brom deserves Coach of the Year mentions, obviously, with this Louisville group. I mean, really outstanding what they've been able to do this year. Excuse me. Jack Plummer, 65.5 completion percentage, 2,402 yards, 16 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. He's been a hoot to watch this year. This Louisville offense is a pretty good one. Not bad. 251 yards per game passing, 187.9 yards per game rushing. That's 49th and 29th, respectively. They're okay at protecting the quarterback. Miami comes in. Something really popped out to me about Miami whenever I was really diving into this, and I already knew, but it just kind of extenuated my thoughts on this. Miami is not a bad football team, man. They are just not a bad football team. I know what we've seen on the field. I know we've seen really bad games. Mario Cristobal, is solely responsible for the Georgia Tech loss that they incurred earlier this year. But, man, even in games that they did lose, statistically, they beat pretty much everybody. And this is a talented group. We talked they're coming off of a loss last week to Florida State, 27-20. And, if you go and look at all the talent rankings and index and whatever, blah, 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 scientific map you want to look at, Miami was the more talented team on the field last Saturday. They've had better recruiting classes than the Florida State team that's undefeated. You said something earlier in one of our other breakdowns, and we're breaking all the key matchups down this week, by the way. And if you're tuning in, Louisville at Miami breakdown here, thank you for watching the video. Go hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, come join us. We're doing this all the time. But you talked about bounce of ball earlier. Miami has not been the beneficiary of the bounce of ball this year. My gosh, they have been on the bad end of it, the short end of the stick. This team is averaging, this offense, I should say, is averaging 2 turnovers per game for the year. That is, look, it's not all bad luck. Obviously, it's bad throws. It's fumbling the football. But some of that is bad luck, man. And I'm interested to see how that plays out in this game. Turnovers are really hard to bet on. Vegas can't set a line based on turnovers, man. And if Miami continues their sloppy play, they had an interception thrown last week, but it was by the backup quarterback who's not going to play. We're going to talk more about Miami here in just a second. But if they can eliminate the turnovers, man, I think they stand a really good chance in this game. Miami's offense is averaging 427 yards per game. That's 38th in the country. Not bad. 255 yards passing. Look, quarterback situation's been very inconsistent. They've battled injury. I don't know if we've got Tyler Van Dyke, good Tyler Van Dyke showing up one week or bad Tyler Van Dyke showing up one week. It's been really hard to peg. That guy's been so inconsistent. So I think really considering the weapons that they have at wide receiver that I'll get to in a second, I think those numbers are pretty poor considering what they've got to work with. They're really good at protecting the quarterback. This defense, 312.5 yards per game allowed. That's 19th. 86 yards per game rushing allowed. That's 7th in the country. 226.5 yards per game passing allowed. That's 67th. So not great against the pass, but serviceable. So if Miami can come in and play a clean game, get Jacoby George going, who's got 707 yards receiving on the year, Restrepo, Colby Young, the usual guys that are catching balls, they can get those guys going, limit the turnovers. I think they're going to have a chance in this game. But with all that being said, Louisville's defense causes 1.8 turnovers per game on average. They're very disruptive.
Yeah.
They get the ball. Okay. Bunch of ball hawks. They average 91.9 yards per game rushing allowed. That's 10th. 208.2 yards per game passing allowed. That's 40th. And as I said, Louisville is on the precipice of doing something very, very special that Louisville fans don't get to see all that often. I mean, obviously they've had some good teams in the past, but they have a chance to go to Charlotte to knock Florida State out of the playoff and win an ACC championship and put themselves in the playoff conversation, for God's sake. They've only got one loss. So the one game that Louisville lost this year, by the way, was to Pitt, and it was because of turnovers. They had 3 turnovers in that game, played a horrible game. Don't think you could bet on them playing that bad again. Yeah. Give me Louisville -1. They've got everything to play for, all the motivation in the world. This Miami team can't stop shooting themselves in the foot. Van Dyke is going to play this week, but it's by default. He's injured, but he has to play because the backup quarterback ended up getting injured last week, and I guess is having surgery. So give me Louisville -1, everything on the line. This is Louisville's game to lose, I think. What do you think?
Well, first of all, I think that Tyler Van Dyke is now the backup. And the starter is hurt, is what happened. Because I think Emory Williams is now their starter. I don't think he's the backup anymore. I think he's played well enough in the 2 games we've seen him in that he's the starter. And it's unfortunate. He's been injured for really ever since we started seeing him play. So that's unfortunate. But all right, getting into Louisville. Louisville has been the second best team in the ACC really since their 13-point win over Notre Dame. They have had to sort of sneak by a couple of games this year. Georgia Tech, the first game of the year, they won by like 5 points. A 7-point win against Indiana, where they really just took their foot off the gas. I don't think they scored a point in the second half. And NC State, which was probably the biggest head scratcher, where they were held to just 20 yards rushing and won on a field goal in the fourth quarter. But overall, this coach, Jeff Brom has his program looking really good in his first year as head coach. I've really liked what we've seen from him coaching at his alma mater. It's been pretty awesome. Jack Plummer, you mentioned, he's played fine. This is his 5th year as a quarterback. He's completing 65.5%, was a 16-9 touchdown to interception ratio. He does throw a little bit too many picks for Louisville fans liking, but he's been fine. Completion percentage is pretty good, 65.5. That'll do for sure. But Jawar Jordan has been really that player that's getting it done for the Cards this season, as he's averaging over 100 yards total per game and a touchdown per game. So he will likely be over the 1,000 yard rushing on the year after this game as well. I think he's about 26 short on that. So he's been really impressive. He's fun to watch. He's electric. He does everything right. He gets the short yardage plays, and he'll go for the long ball. He does everything really well. 3 down back for sure. Defensively, Louisville has been great as well. They are 16th in yards per game at just over 300, 9th in yards per attempt, rushing at 3 yards per attempt, 6th on third down, allowing just a 28.03% conversion rate. That's really good. That's a really good defensive stat, and kind of a weird one, but if you're into those prop bets, they are first in first quarter points allowed, averaging just 0.7 points in the first quarter. They are also third in fourth quarter points allowed, averaging 3 points in the fourth quarter. So they're starting the games really strong. They're ending really strong defensively speaking. So just a kind of an interesting stat there, and I don't think it has too much of an effect on the game, but one to watch for sure if you're into those prop bets.
Interesting.
Yep. For Miami, everyone thought that this would be a strong season for the Canes. Going into this season, it's Mario Cristobal's second season, and after a big win against Texas A&M, where they put up almost 50 points, it just inflated the hype, you know. But that really hasn't proven to be the case, as they lost in devastating fashion against Georgia Tech, then lost to UNC on the road. And in the past 2 weeks, they've lost to NC State and Florida State. Not getting it done. That's not a very good NC State team that they're losing to, and they have the talent, like you mentioned. So it's very head scratching to see them lose like they have. They thought that they had figured some things out at quarterback when they started Emory Williams against Clemson, and he won them the game. But he's battled injury, and as we saw last week in that fourth quarter, broke his arm against Florida State. They had to bring TVD back in, and he immediately throws a pick. Like this guy cannot stop throwing picks. I don't know what his deal is, but you mentioned it, but TVD will be the starter again, probably for the rest of the year. But even though, and you alluded to this earlier, but even though the wins and losses may not show it, I think that Miami's a pretty good team defensively. Offensively, they're very average, right? And they're up and down. You mentioned TVD. He's kind of hot or cold. We don't know what we get from him, but overall, nothing really stands out offensively. But on defense, they're really good at stopping the run. They're 6th in yards per attempt, and they're also 11th in the country in sacks. So that's kind of their way of defending the pass, is to sack the quarterback. So a pretty good defensive team from Miami. I don't think that that they're strong enough on defense to stop the Cardinals this week enough, right? So in this game, I think whoever passes the ball the best will win. Similarly, I think both teams are great at stopping the run and are pretty average against the pass. So, who can push the ball down the field the best and create some big plays? I think that Plummer, to me right now, it's the more consistent quarterback and probably slightly better in my eyes than TVD at this point. And it sucks because if Williams was in this game, I'm picking Miami to win, pretty easily. But the fact that TVD comes in, I don't know what to expect from him. I think this is going to be a really close game. But I think that this is one that the Cardinals will win 23-20. I like the under play here as well. I think it could be even lower scoring than that. I think this could be a 17 to 21 type game as well. But I like the under. I think that's my better bet on this game. But I think the Cardinals are going to be able to get it done, and I think that they're destined to go and play Florida State in the ACC championship.
Yeah, well, I like what you said, that I do think whoever is more efficient and productive passing the ball in this game is going to stand a really good chance. But Louisville has got to protect Plummer. They've allowed 20 sacks on the year. That's like 60th. That's like right around the middle mark of college football. And on the other hand, Miami has sacked the quarterback 33 times, which is top 10 in the nation. So done pretty well at getting after the quarterback. And on the other hand of that, Miami has only allowed 13 sacks on the year, which is really remarkable. Very, very, very good. So that's going to be interesting. Jamari Thrash, I'd be remiss if I did not mention him. Jamari Thrash for Louisville has 734 yards receiving, 6 touchdowns. This guy is freaky, very freaky. Needs to, I think, have a couple of touchdowns in this game to help his team get to Charlotte. This is going to be a good one, man. And Miami does stand a fighting chance. Obviously, it's a 1-point spread, but we're both on Louisville, and I feel good about that.